Lee Tae-ho felt the weight of every eye in the room as he walked through the massive doors of the diplomatic chamber. The space station called Harmony's Rest was bigger than any human building he had ever seen. The ceiling stretched so high above him that he could barely see it through the strange blue mist that floated in the air. 12 different alien species sat around a curved table that seemed to be made from a single piece of black stone. The human diplomat had been to many important meetings in his life, but nothing like this. Back on Earth, he was considered one of the best negotiators the planet had ever produced. He had helped end 3 different wars and had signed dozens of trade agreements between nations. But here, surrounded by beings that looked like they came from nightmares and dreams, he felt very small. The Veltharian ambassador sat at the center of the curved table. Crixtal was his name, and he looked like a giant lizard that had learned to walk on 2 legs. His scales were deep purple, and they seemed to change color when the light hit them. Sharp teeth filled his mouth, and his eyes were like yellow fires that never stopped burning. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Human," Crixtal said, and the words sounded like an insult in his mouth. "You are late, Lee." Tae-ho checked his watch. He was actually 5 minutes early, but he decided not to argue. "I apologize, honored ambassador. I am ready to begin whenever you are." Several of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. A blue-skinned creature with 4 arms and no nose shook its head. "Ready to begin," it repeated in a voice like singing wind. "How cute." Another alien, this one covered in what looked like gray fur, leaned forward. "Does the human child understand why it has been called here?" Lee Tae-ho had read all the files. He knew these beings represented something called the Galactic Trade Consortium. They controlled most of the trade routes between star systems, and they had been watching humanity's expansion into space for the past 50 years. What he didn't know was why they had suddenly decided to make contact now. "I understand that you wish to discuss humanity's activities in space," Lee Tae-ho said carefully. "My government is very interested in establishing good relations with your organization." The laughter from the aliens was louder this time. Even Crixtal's mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Good relations," said a creature that looked like a walking tree with too many eyes. "The human thinks this is about good relations." Crixtal raised one clawed hand, and the room fell silent. "Human diplomat Lee Tae-ho of the planet Earth, 3rd world from the star you call Sol. You are here because your species has violated our territory." Lee Tae-ho felt his heart speed up, but he kept his face calm. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Humanity has never attacked any alien vessel or world. We have always been peaceful in our expansion." "Peaceful," Crixtal repeated, and his voice was full of mockery. "Yes, we know about your peaceful expansion. 47 colony worlds in 30 years, mining stations in 16 different star systems, trade ships moving through space lanes that have belonged to the consortium for over 1,000 years. The human diplomat felt sweat on his forehead. This was much worse than he had expected. "Honored ambassadors, humanity was not aware that these space lanes belonged to anyone. We have seen no signs of other intelligent life until today. If we have accidentally trespassed, we are willing to discuss compensation." "Compensation," said the blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. "It offers us compensation for stealing our trade routes." "The human child does not understand," said the gray-furred creature. "It thinks this is a negotiation between equals." Crixtal stood up from his chair. He was much taller than Lee Tae-ho had realized, at least 3 meters high. His claws clicked against the stone table as he leaned forward. "Listen carefully, little human. Your species has exactly 7 days to accept our terms. You will withdraw from all worlds beyond your home system of Sol. You will pay tribute to the consortium for the damage you have caused to our trade network. You will limit your population to prevent further expansion. And you will provide us with 30% of all resources you mine from your home system." Lee Tae-ho felt his anger rising. but he forced himself to stay calm. "And if we refuse these terms?" The aliens around the table made their laughing sounds again. Crixtal's yellow eyes seemed to burn brighter. "If you refuse, we will take what we want by force. Your species has no military worth mentioning. We have studied your ships for decades. Cargo vessels, science ships, colony transports, all of them slow and weak. You have never fought a real war in space." Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a giant insect with silver skin. "The humans spread through space like a disease, but they have no fangs, no claws, no weapons that could threaten even one of our smallest warships." "Your people are good at building things," admitted the tree-like alien, "good at growing food and making tools. You could be useful servants to the consortium, but servants must know their place." Lee Tae-ho looked around, the room at all the alien faces staring at him. Some looked amused, others looked bored. None of them looked worried. They really believed that humanity would simply give up everything they had built in space. "I will need to discuss these terms with my government," he said finally. "Of course you will," Crixtal said. "You are just a messenger boy. Run back to your leaders and tell them what you have heard. Tell them that the Galactic Trade Consortium has been patient with their ignorant expansion, but our patience has limits." 7 days, said the four-armed blue alien. "Not 1 day more. And human," Crixtal added as Lee Tae-ho turned to leave. "Do not think about running away to hide in the dark corners of space. We know where all of your colonies are. We know how many ships you have. We know exactly how weak you are." Lee Tae-ho nodded and walked toward the doors. Behind him, he could hear the aliens already discussing how they would divide up humanity's colonies among themselves. They talked about human workers like they were discussing farm animals. As the doors closed behind him, Lee Tae-ho allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had made one very important mistake. They thought they knew everything about humanity, but they had only seen what humans wanted them to see. Back on Earth, there were people who would be very interested to hear about this meeting. People who had been preparing for this day for a very long time. People who understood that sometimes the best way to seem weak was to hide your strength until the perfect moment. The aliens expected negotiation. They expected humanity to beg and plead and accept whatever scraps they were offered. They would be very surprised to learn what humanity actually had in mind. The emergency meeting room deep under the Earth Defense Force headquarters was filled with tension. President Choi Min-ho sat at the head of the long table, his face serious as he listened to Lee Tae-ho's report. Around the table sat the most important people in human government and military leadership. "They gave us 7 days, Lee Tae-ho said again. "They expect us to abandon everything we've built beyond Mars, every colony, every mining station, every research base. Admiral Jang." Hyo-rin, the head of Earth's military forces, tapped her fingers on the table. She was a small woman, but everyone in the room knew she had the strongest will of anyone present. "What did you think of their ships when you arrived at the station?" "I only saw a few escort vessels," Lee Tae-ho admitted. "They were big, but they looked more like floating cities than warships. Lots of lights and decorations, nothing that looked particularly threatening." "Because they don't need to look threatening," said Kim Do-won, the military observer who had accompanied Lee Tae-ho. "These aliens have never fought a species like us. They solve problems through economic pressure and overwhelming numbers." Dr. Yoon Ji-woo opened her datapad and projected images into the air above the table. The room filled with pictures of different alien species, their ships, and their home worlds. "I've been studying the intelligence we've gathered on the consortium species for the past 20 years, she said. "Look at their evolutionary history. The Veltharians evolved from large herbivores. They were plant eaters who grew big to scare away predators. The Zephyrians came from small animals that lived in groups for safety. The Mordax evolved from creatures that hid underground." She changed the image to show alien ships. "Look at their military vessels. They're built for defense, not attack. Heavy shields, thick armor, but relatively weak weapons. They fight by surrounding their enemies and waiting for them to give up. President Choi Min-ho leaned back in his chair. So, they've never dealt with a predator species before. That's exactly right, Dr. Yoon said. Humanity evolved from hunters. Our ancestors chased animals across entire continents until they collapsed from exhaustion. We learned to work together to bring down creatures much bigger and stronger than us. We learned to make weapons, to set traps, to plan attacks. General Park Soo-jin, who commanded Earth's ground forces, smiled grimly. And we've spent the last 10,000 years getting better at killing each other. Admiral Jang pulled up another display. This one showed human military assets throughout known space. The aliens think they've been watching us, but they've only seen what we wanted them to see. Every cargo ship has had military escort. Every colony has defensive systems. Every trade route has been patrolled by armed vessels. But they didn't see any of that, Kim Do-won added. Our warships have been running silent, using stealth technology the aliens don't even know exists. Their sensors are designed to track big, obvious targets. They can't detect our hunter-killer ships. The president looked around the table. How many ships can we actually put into space if we need to? Admiral Jang smiled. More than they expect, sir. Much more. She changed the display to show the real numbers. Hidden bases throughout human space, shipyards that the aliens had never detected, weapons platforms disguised as research stations. We've been preparing for this day since we first detected alien signals 50 years ago, she explained. Every human colony was built with defense in mind. Every ship was designed to serve double duty. Every mining operation included military engineers. Dr. Yoon brought up more data about alien psychology. The most important thing to understand is that these species see war as a last resort. They use it only when economic pressure fails. And when they do fight, they expect their enemies to surrender as soon as they realize they're outnumbered. They've never fought an enemy that gets stronger when cornered, General Park added. They've never dealt with a species that sees impossible odds as a challenge rather than a reason to give up. President Choi stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the city. Even from underground, they could see the lights of millions of people going about their daily lives, unaware that their entire future was being decided in this room. What do we know about their military capabilities? He asked. Admiral Jang brought up technical specifications for alien warships. Their technology is actually quite advanced, but it's all defensive. They build ships like mobile fortresses. The problem is, fortresses can't move fast enough to catch our attack ships. Their weapons are designed for destroying asteroids and space debris, not for fighting other warships, added Colonel Nam Woo-jin, the Earth Defense Force's chief weapons specialist. They're powerful, but they're slow to aim and slower to reload. Kim Do-won had been quiet for most of the meeting, but now he leaned forward. There's something else. The way they talked about us at the station, they really believe we're just lucky primitives who stumbled into space technology. They think our expansion was random and disorganized, when actually, it was the most carefully planned military operation in human history, Admiral Jang said proudly. Dr. Yoon nodded. Every colony was placed to control strategic resources or defend key locations. Every trade route was chosen to give us intelligence about alien activities. Every research mission was also a scouting operation. President Choi turned back to the table. So what you're telling me is that they think they're dealing with frightened sheep, when actually they've cornered a pack of wolves. That's exactly right, sir, Admiral Jang said. And they have no idea what cornered wolves can do. The president sat back down. Options? We could try real negotiation, Lee Tae-ho suggested. Explain the misunderstanding, offer to share the trade routes. General, Park shook her head. They won't listen. They've already decided we're inferior. In their minds, we exist to serve them. We could retreat, offered Colonel Nam. Pull back to the inner colonies, make them think we're complying while we prepare for real war. That gives them time to study our real capabilities, Admiral Jang said, and it abandons millions of human colonists to alien rule. President Choi looked around the table one more time. There's a third option. Everyone waited. We show them exactly who they're dealing with, the president said quietly. We send them the kind of delegation they'll understand. Admiral Jang's smile was cold and predatory. What did you have in mind, sir? They want to meet with humanity's representatives, President Choi said. They expect diplomats and negotiators. Instead, we'll send soldiers. Just soldiers? Lee, Taeho asked. Soldiers, the president confirmed, and the ships that carry them. Dr. Yoon was already pulling up stellar charts. The station is in neutral space, protected by several treaties. They won't expect a military response there. They won't expect any military response at all, Kim Do-won corrected. Remember, they think we don't have a real military. President Choi stood up again. Admiral Jang, how long would it take to get a battle group to Harmony's Rest? 6 days. Sir, we could have a full fleet there with 1 day to spare. Then that's what we'll do. The aliens want humanity's answer to their ultimatum. We'll give them an answer they'll never forget. The meeting ended with everyone knowing their jobs. Earth would send its delegation to the aliens. But this delegation would not come to beg or to surrender. This delegation would come to teach the Galactic Trade Consortium exactly what kind of species they had chosen to threaten. The diplomatic chamber on Harmony's Rest was decorated for celebration. Krikstal had ordered the finest foods from 12 different worlds to be prepared. Bottles of expensive alien wines sat on side tables, ready to be opened when the humans officially surrendered. The Veltharian ambassador had even worn his most impressive ceremonial armor, polished scales that reflected the chamber's lights like mirrors. The deadline arrives in 30 minutes, announced Zethmore, Krikstal's military advisor. He was smaller than the ambassador, but covered in more scars. Do we have word from the human fleet? What human fleet? Laughed Gextar, the consortium's military commander. They have cargo ships and research vessels, children playing with toys they don't understand. The other alien delegates were equally confident. The Zephyrian trade minister, a blue creature called Vexana, was already reviewing plans for converting human colonies into consortium trading posts. The Mordak representative, Thulran, had brought contracts for human labor services. I almost feel sorry for them, said Raymoth, the insectoid ambassador. They expanded so far, so fast, they must have thought they were alone in the galaxy. Ignorance is dangerous, Krikstal said, settling his large form into his chair. Better they learn their place now, before they cause real damage. A soft chime announced an incoming message. The chamber's communication system activated, showing the image of a young human in a simple blue uniform. The aliens all recognized him immediately. This is Captain Nam Woo Jin of the Earth Defense Force, the human said. I am requesting permission to dock and address the consortium delegation. The aliens looked at each other with amusement. Zethmore leaned forward. Where is your diplomatic team, little human? Where are your leaders with their surrender documents? Captain Nam's face remained calm. I am the diplomatic team. I carry humanity's official response to your ultimatum. More laughter filled the chamber. Vexana's 4 arms moved in what humans would have recognized as clapping. They sent a soldier to negotiate. How wonderfully primitive. Let him dock, Krikstal decided. This should be entertaining. 20 minutes later, Captain Nam walked through the chamber doors alone. He was not a large man by human standards, and surrounded by aliens who were all bigger than him, he looked tiny. His uniform was clean but simple, with few decorations. He carried no weapons and brought no guards. Honored delegates, he said, bowing slightly. I bring greetings from the people of Earth and all human colonies. Get to the point, little soldier, Gextar rumbled. Do your leaders accept our terms, or do we need to come and collect what we want by force? Captain Nam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data pad. Humanity has considered your offer carefully. We thank you for your generous terms. The aliens leaned forward eagerly. This was the moment they had been waiting for. However, Captain Nam continued, "We must respectfully decline." The silence in the chamber was complete. Then Krixtal's voice filled the room like thunder. "You decline? You refuse our generous offer of survival?" "We do," Captain Nam said simply. "Humanity will continue our expansion as planned. We hope this can be done peacefully, with respect for all species' rights." The laughter that erupted from the aliens was louder than before. Raymoth's insectoid features twisted in what might have been a smile. "The human child thinks it can dictate terms to us. Your species has 47 colonies and perhaps 100 ships," Zethmore said. "We have over 10,000 worlds and 1,000,000 vessels. Do you understand mathematics, little human?" "I understand mathematics very well," Captain Nam replied. "I also understand military strategy." Military strategy. Vexana's voice was like wind chimes in a storm. What could a species of cargo haulers know about military strategy? Captain Nam checked his chronometer, a simple device on his wrist. "Our delegation should be arriving shortly. They will explain better than I can." "Your delegation?" Krixtal stood up, his massive form towering over the human. "You said you were the delegation." "I said I was the diplomatic team," Captain Nam corrected. "The delegation is larger." Gextar was looking at his sensor displays. "I detect no approaching ships. Your human lies." Captain Nam smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "Your sensors are designed to detect the kind of ships your species builds. Large, slow broadcasting identification signals. Our ships are designed differently." "Impossible," Thul Ran spoke for the first time. "We have been monitoring human space for decades. We know every ship you possess. You know every ship you could see," Captain Nam said. "Military vessels are built to avoid detection." Alarms suddenly began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed as Harmony's Rest's sensors detected something massive dropping out of hyperspace nearby. On the chamber's main screen, space itself seemed to tear apart. A hole opened in reality, and through it came something that made every alien in the room step backward in shock. The battleship Indomitable emerged from hyperspace like a moving mountain. 3 kilometers of dark gray metal covered in weapons, systems that the aliens had never seen before. Her hull was scarred from battles fought in distant systems, marked with symbols that spoke of victory in conflicts the consortium had never heard of. Behind her came more ships, destroyers that moved like hunting sharks, cruisers bristling with missile launchers, support vessels that looked more like mobile fortresses than anything the aliens called warships. The human fleet arranged itself in perfect formation around Harmony's Rest. Every ship was exactly where it needed to be, their movements coordinated like a dance of death. "Impossible," Krixtal whispered. "We detected no human military ships. Our intelligence said you had no real navy." Captain Nam was still smiling. "Your intelligence was designed to see what we wanted you to see. Every cargo ship you observed was escorted by vessels you couldn't detect. Every colony you thought was defenseless had military protection you couldn't find." Gextar was frantically checking his tactical displays. "These ships, they're not built like anything we've ever encountered. Their energy signatures are completely different from civilian vessels. Because they're built for war," Captain Nam explained patiently. "Real war, not the economic conflicts your species prefers." Vexana's 4 arms were shaking. "How many ships do you have?" "Enough," Captain Nam said simply. The communication system activated again. This time, the face that appeared was older, female, wearing the uniform of a high-ranking military officer. "This is Admiral Jang Hyo-rin of the Earth Defense Force," the woman said. "I am requesting permission to come aboard and discuss the terms of our coexistence." Krixtal looked around the chamber at his fellow delegates. None of them were laughing anymore. The consortium had built their power on the assumption that other species would be reasonable, that they would surrender rather than fight hopeless battles. Humanity, it seemed, had different ideas about what constituted a hopeless battle. Permission. Granted, Krixtal said quietly. Captain Nam checked his chronometer again. The Admiral should be here in 15 minutes. I suggest you use that time to reconsider your position. Outside the chamber's windows, the human fleet waited in formation. Their weapons were not aimed at the station, but the message was clear. Humanity had not come to surrender. They had come to negotiate from a position of strength the aliens had never imagined they possessed. Admiral Jang Hyo-rin walked into the diplomatic chamber like she owned it. Behind her came 12 human officers in full military dress uniforms, their boots clicking against the stone floor in perfect rhythm. The sound echoed through the chamber, in a way that made every alien delegate feel uncomfortable. Unlike the previous human visitors, these people did not look around in wonder at the alien architecture. They did not seem impressed by the size of the chamber or the advanced technology. They walked with the confidence of soldiers who had seen battles and won them. The Admiral was not a large woman, but something about the way she moved made her, seemed to fill the entire room. Her uniform was dark blue with silver decorations that caught the light. Her face was calm, but her eyes were the eyes of someone who had made life and death decisions many times before. Honored delegates of the Galactic Trade Consortium, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I am Admiral Jang Hyo-rin, Supreme Commander of all Earth Defense Forces. I come to discuss the future relationship between humanity and your organization. Krixtal tried to regain his composure. Admiral, surely there has been some misunderstanding. We had no idea that humanity possessed such extensive military capabilities. No misunderstanding, Admiral Jang replied. You simply saw what we allowed you to see. Commander Lee Sung-min, please present our intelligence summary. One of the human officers stepped forward. He was young but moved with the precision of someone trained for war. In his hands, he carried a device that projected images into the air above the diplomatic table. Veltharian Third Fleet, Commander Lee announced. The image showed alien warships massed near a jump point. 47 vessels currently positioned at Kepler's Gate, presumably waiting for orders to attack human colonies. Gextar jerked upright in his chair. How did you— Zephyrian blockade ships, Commander Lee continued, ignoring the interruption. 23 heavy cruisers positioned along trade route Delta 7, ready to cut off human supply lines. Vexanas. Four arms moved nervously. That information is classified at the highest levels. Mordak weapon platforms, the commander said, showing another image. Hidden in the asteroid field of the Terminus system. 17 orbital defense stations that you believed were undetected. Thulran made a sound like grinding stone. Impossible. Those platforms are cloaked, Commander Lee smiled. Your cloaking technology is very good for hiding from other consortium species. It's not good enough to hide from us. Dr. Han So-young, a woman in civilian clothes but carrying herself like a soldier, stepped up to the projection device. We have been monitoring consortium military activities for 30 years. We know the location of every fleet, every base, every weapon system you possess. But you could not have known, Rymoth insisted. Our security is absolute. Your security assumes that all other species think like you do, Dr. Han replied. You hide your ships in places where you would not think to look for them. But we are not you. We learn to hunt by thinking like our prey, then thinking like predators. Admiral Jang walked around the diplomatic table, stopping behind each alien delegate. Your species evolved from creatures that avoided conflict. You solve problems through negotiation, economic pressure, and overwhelming numerical superiority. When you do fight, you expect your enemies to surrender quickly when they realize they are outnumbered. She stopped in front of Krixtal. Humanity evolved differently. We are descended from persistence hunters. Our ancestors would chase prey animals for days across entire continents, never giving up, never stopping until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Ancient history, Zethmore said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Admiral Jang asked. Commander O, please show our friends humanity's actual expansion pattern. The projection changed to show a three-dimensional map of human space. What had appeared to be random expansion suddenly revealed itself as something entirely different. Every human colony is positioned to control strategic resources or defend key locations, Commander Oh Hyun-woo explained. Every trade route serves dual purposes for commerce and military supply. Every mining operation includes defensive positions and weapons manufacturing. Dr. Han pointed to specific locations on the map. What you saw as peaceful expansion was actually the most carefully planned military campaign in galactic history. We have been preparing for this meeting for 50 years. Preparing for what meeting? Vexana asked. The one where someone would try to make humanity submit, Admiral Jang said simply. We knew it would happen eventually. Species like yours always believe that species like ours should serve species like yours. Krikstal stood up, trying to regain some authority. Even if your intelligence is accurate, you are still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. The consortium has over 10,000 member worlds and millions of ships. Numbers matter, Admiral Jang agreed. But so does technology, and training, and experience. She nodded to Commander O. The projection showed technical specifications for consortium warships compared to human vessels. Your ships are built like mobile cities, Commander O explained. Heavy armor, powerful shields, comfortable living spaces for long voyages. They are designed for creatures who see space travel as an extension of their peaceful civilizations. The image changed to show human warships. Our ships are built like weapons. Every system is designed for combat efficiency. Every component serves the purpose of destroying enemy vessels or keeping our ships fighting longer. Your weapons are designed for clearing space debris and destroying asteroids, Dr. Han added. Powerful, but slow to aim and slower to reload. Our weapons were designed to crack military fortresses and destroy heavily armored targets. Gextar was studying the technical displays with growing alarm. These power readings, how do you generate this much energy in such small ships? We learn to do more with less, Admiral Jang said. When you have only one world, you must be efficient with everything you build. Commander Lee brought up another display. Your military tactics assume that enemies will behave rationally. When faced with superior numbers, most species in the consortium surrender rather than fight hopeless battles. Humanity finds hopeless battles. Inspiring, Admiral Jang said. We have a saying, the darker the night, the brighter the stars. We do our best work when everything seems lost. Ramoth was clicking his mandibles together nervously. Surely you cannot seriously consider fighting the entire consortium. Even if your ships are superior individually, you would eventually be overwhelmed. Admiral Jang checked her chronometer. Would we? Commander. Oh, what is the current status of the demonstration target? Commander O consulted his data pad. Dead moon in the outer system, designated target Alpha. No atmosphere, no resources, no strategic value. Safe distance from all inhabited areas. Perfect. Admiral Jang activated her communication device. Indomitable. This is Admiral Jang. You are authorized to demonstrate main battery effectiveness on target Alpha. Through the chamber's massive windows, the alien delegates watched the human battleship slowly rotate to face the distant moon. Energy began building along the length of her main cannon, a weapon system larger than most consortium destroyers. What are you doing? Krikstal demanded. Answering your question about superior numbers, Admiral Jang replied calmly. The Indomitable fired. The beam of coherent energy that erupted from her main cannon was brighter than the system's star. It crossed the distance to the target moon in seconds. The moon didn't explode. It didn't crack apart or break into pieces. It simply ceased to exist. One moment there was a rocky satellite orbiting the system's gas giant, and the next moment there was only expanding vapor and debris. The silence in the diplomatic chamber lasted for nearly a full minute. "One ship," Admiral Jang said quietly. "One shot. How many of your vessels would it take to achieve the same result?" None of the alien delegates answered. "We are a young species," the Admiral continued. "We have had only one world for our entire history." "Do you know what that means?" Still no answer. "It means we had to learn to fight each other for resources, for territory, for survival. We have been at war with ourselves for thousands of years, perfecting the art of conflict," she gestured toward the window where the human fleet maintained its formation. "These ships, these weapons, these soldiers, they are the product of 10 millennia of warfare. Every human conflict taught us something new about how to destroy our enemies more efficiently." Krixtal's voice was barely a whisper. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Jang smiled, and for the first time, it was not a threatening expression. "Peace, trade, mutual respect, the same things you claim to offer us." "But on different terms," Zethmore said. "On equal terms," Admiral Jang corrected. "We are not your servants. We are not your subjects. We are your neighbors, and we will be treated as such." She looked around the chamber at each alien delegate. "The question now is whether you prefer peace or war with a species that has spent its entire existence learning how to fight." The diplomatic chamber had never been so quiet. For the first time in consortium history, the alien delegates found themselves in a position they had never imagined, being the weaker party in negotiations. Ambassador Kim Yoo-jin entered the chamber, with the same confidence that Admiral Jang had shown, but her approach was different. Where the Admiral had demonstrated strength, Kim Yoo-jin came to offer solutions. She carried herself like someone who had spent years ending conflicts rather than starting them. "Honored delegates," she began, setting a data pad on the diplomatic table. "Humanity comes with terms for peaceful coexistence. We believe these terms serve the interests of all parties involved." Krixtal looked exhausted. The destruction of the moon had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. "What? What are humanity's demands?" "We prefer to call them proposals," Kim Yoo-jin said gently. "First, humanity will respect all existing consortium trade routes and territorial claims that were established before our expansion began. We have no interest in taking what belongs to others." Several alien delegates looked surprised. They had expected demands for tribute or territory. "Second," Kim Yoo-jin continued, "humanity requests formal recognition of our sovereignty over all worlds and systems we have already settled. These colonies represent decades of work and the homes of millions of people." "That seems reasonable," Vexana said carefully. "Third, we propose the establishment of joint trade agreements that benefit all species. Humanity has resources and technologies that could be valuable to consortium members. In return, we would like access to consortium knowledge and markets." Kim Yoo-jin activated her datapad, projecting images of human innovations. "Our mining techniques could increase resource extraction by 40%. Our agricultural methods could feed worlds that currently import food. Our medical research has led to treatments for diseases that affect several consortium species." Dr. Bae Ji-hoon, humanity's chief technology officer, stepped forward. "We have also developed defensive technologies that could benefit all species. Shield systems, sensor networks, and protective barriers that could make every world safer." "And if we refuse these proposals?" Thulran asked. Admiral Jang, who had remained silent during Kim Yoo-jin's presentation, spoke quietly. "Then we will continue our expansion independently. We will defend our territory from any attempts to restrict or attack it. We will treat aggression against human interests as an act of war." The words hung in the air like a threat that everyone understood but no one wanted to acknowledge. Commander Lee brought up new tactical displays. Currently, the Indomitable is our escort vessel. The actual battle fleet is positioned one jump away, waiting for orders. How many ships? Gextar asked. Captain Oh Hyun-woo consulted his data pad. 17 dreadnoughts, 43 cruisers, and 200 escort vessels, all armed with weapons comparable to what you just observed. We came prepared for negotiations, Admiral Jang explained. But we came equipped for war. Raymoth was calculating numbers on his own device. That fleet could destroy entire star systems. If necessary, Admiral Jang confirmed, but we would prefer not to. Destruction benefits no one. Cooperation benefits everyone. One by one, the consortium delegates began to realize their situation. They faced a species that was not only willing to fight impossible battles, but actually seemed to prefer them. More importantly, they faced a species that had the capability to win those battles. The Veltharian fleet at Kepler's Gate, Zethmore said suddenly. What happens to them? They withdraw to Veltharian space, Kim Yoo-jin said simply. No harm comes to them if they do not attempt to attack human vessels or colonies. And if they do attack? Krixtal asked. Admiral Jang's expression didn't change. Then they cease to exist, just like that moon. The silence stretched out again. Finally, Vexana spoke up. The Zephyrian Trade Council will accept humanity's terms. We see the wisdom in cooperation, rather than conflict. Thulron nodded slowly. The Mordak Defense League also agrees. We have no desire to test human military capabilities. One by one, the other delegates voiced their agreement. Only Krixtal remained silent, his pride clearly wounded by the reversal of fortune. Ambassador Krixtal, Kim Yoo-jin said gently, the Veltharian Empire is welcome to join this new partnership. Humanity holds no grudge against those who threatened us out of ignorance rather than malice. And if the Veltharian Empire refuses? Krixtal asked. Admiral Jang leaned forward slightly. Then the Veltharian Empire stands alone against a species that has never lost a war we were determined to win. Krixtal looked around the chamber at his fellow delegates, all of whom had already accepted the new reality. Finally, he nodded. The Veltharian Empire accepts humanity's proposals. Kim Yoo-jin smiled warmly. Excellent. I believe this arrangement will benefit all of our species for generations to come. Dr. Bay activated a new projection showing space around the station. Work will begin immediately on upgrading Harmony's Rest with the latest human defensive systems. This station has always been a symbol of peaceful cooperation. Now it will be protected well enough to ensure that peace continues. Human military. Engineers will oversee the installation, Admiral Jang added, not as conquerors, but as partners in maintaining galactic stability. Commander O consulted his chronometer. The first convoy of human trade ships should arrive within the week. They will be carrying samples of our technology and resources, ready to begin formal commerce with consortium worlds. Under the protection of human military escorts, Captain Nam added. Old habits, you understand. Krixtal found his voice again. How long have you been planning this? Kim Yoo-jin exchanged glances with Admiral Jang. Since the day we detected the first alien signal 50 years ago, we knew that eventually we would encounter other species. We hoped for friendship, but we prepared for war. We studied every piece of information we could gather about consortium species, Dr. Bay explained. Your psychology, your technology, your military capabilities. We learned to think like you so we could understand how you would think about us. And we prepared for the day when someone would try to make us submit, Admiral Jang concluded. Because we knew that day would come. It always does, when a young species meets old ones. Vexana was looking at the human officers with something that might have been respect. You let us think you were weak. We didn't lie, Kim Yoo-jin said. We simply didn't volunteer information you didn't ask for. You saw cargo ships and research. Vessels because those were the ships you were looking for. You never looked for warships, so you didn't see them. A lesson for the future, Thulron rumbled. Never assume that silence means weakness. Never assume that peace means defenselessness, Ramoth added. Admiral Jang stood up, and the other human officers followed her lead. This has been a productive meeting. I believe we understand each other much better now. Indeed we do, Krixtal said. Welcome to galactic civilization, humanity. Though I suspect civilization will never be quite the same. Kim Yu-jin gathered her datapad and smiled at the alien delegates. We look forward to working with all of you. Humanity has always believed that diversity makes us stronger. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Gextar called out one last question. What if other species challenge this new arrangement? What if someone decides to test human resolve? Admiral Jang paused at the chamber doors. Then they will learn the same lesson you learned today. Humanity does not bluff. We do not make threats we cannot keep. And we never, ever give up. The doors closed behind the human delegation, leaving the alien representatives alone with their thoughts and their new understanding of galactic politics. Outside the station, the human fleet maintained its perfect formation, but now it was no longer a threat display. It was a promise of protection for those who chose cooperation and of consequences for those who chose aggression. The galaxy had learned an important lesson that day. Never judge a species by what they choose to show you, and never, ever assume that the youngest predator in the system is the weakest. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not as servants or subjects, but as equals who were willing and able to defend that equality with overwhelming force. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.